Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really happy to host Marita Cahill. She's got an MBA from Michigan, and she is the founder of Practice Grow, which we will hear all about. She's been on quite a number of significant physician platforms, including White Coat Investor, Kevin MD, and she's going to talk about all the work that she's done with Practice Grow. And I'm really happy to have her on. Marita, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And yeah, like you said, I am the founder of Practice Grow Marketing, which is a boutique healthcare marketing firm.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll dive right into it. Talk about your background and your journey and what you plan to do with Practice Grow.
So, my background, I originally started working in management consulting for about half my career, and then later transitioned into having my own consulting firm with a couple colleagues, which I worked with at the management consulting firms. And then gradually we transitioned to focusing on healthcare, where we created this firm, Practice Grow, and primarily worked with private practices and helped them understand a bit about how to attract and retain their ideal patients.
Mm,
So.
Interesting. Yeah, and I know it's you have an associated CME course as well. First thing I talk about is when people come to you around Practice Grow, what needs or problems are they looking to solve or things to accomplish? And how can you help them with that?
So essentially, when we were doing consulting with providers, sometimes it was individual providers and sometimes it was groups. The same questions came up over and over again as to what do I need to do for marketing? How do I attract more people, more patients? And they kept coming over and over again, the same questions. And it, I realized that healthcare providers really don't have any business marketing background. And so I thought instead of answering these questions over and over again, I could come up with a system to help providers really learn what they need to do for marketing from the onset. So if you're leaving medical school and you want to obviously maybe join a hospital based practice or maybe you join a private group, how they can establish their own personal brand and then future proof their practice. And that's the impetus of the course I created for providers. And there's really nothing else like that, like it out there that I know of. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. And a follow up question I have for you is marketing and unveiling the power of healthcare marketing. What, as a healthcare growth strategist, what proven techniques do you help clients build their brand and grow their patient base?
So I'll tell a story here just because it is a great way to illustrate my point and why every professional needs to have their own online presence and brand. So it's a tale of two stories. One is a provider that was a surgical oncologist, was very well established in his career, 20 plus years into it, was hospital based, and there came a point after COVID that the hospital administration changed and he was no longer happy and he wanted to move practices. And he moved an hour away. And unfortunately, because he had no online presence of his own, he didn't have his own website or Google business page or social media. When he left, he lost his entire loyal patient following, which he had built up through years. And I'm sure oncology patients have strong relationships with their provider, and they would have wanted to follow him. But when he left, the hospital literally turned off his Google business page. And so when patients went to look for him and Googled his name, it said practice permanently closed. That was a really unfortunate event and learning lesson for both him and his patients. But then on the flip, I worked with another provider who had hundreds of five-star reviews and this provider was part of a private practice. And had a very loyal patient following, and decided to move practices as well, and moved within the community. And because he had his online presence all in order, when he transitioned from, actually, this was a reverse, a private to hospital based practice, he was able, his patients can find him and follow him. So it was a much smoother transition for him in his practice. And so these are the kind of things that with my course, I try to educate providers on is it doesn't matter if you are in a great hospital-based system. You just never know what life will throw at you. And maybe you decide at some point you want to move cross country or you want to move somewhere else. And there's ways to protect your brand and your online and your patients by owning your own online presence. So that's one of the things I learned working with providers that caused me to create this course.
Yeah, interesting. And it brings we can take the conversation in a lot of different directions. But what I want the audience to realize is because you have a holistic and unique approach to practice and actually the practice grow method. And so, what are the three stages that you strategically focus on to grow and help clinicians future proof their practices?
So the three things that I really work with, and this is covered in the course because I don't think it matters if you hire a consulting firm to come in and help you with your marketing. You need to know what you're asking and what to look for in any sort of proposal and where the ROI is. And so my method is to go with GROW. So G stands for generate your personal brand. So every provider needs to create and own their own online presence.
Mhm.
So there's a lot that goes into that. But first step is secure your own online presence. And then second is how do you best reach your patients and your referrals? So I am not necessarily one to say every provider needs to have this huge social media presence. I really feel the data supports that patients find providers in one of three ways. First is online reviews. So anytime someone refers you to someone, they'll go check your online reviews, which is fair, but that's doesn't where it always stops. Then second, people want referrals from friends and family. So those are usually the most trusted, even more so than online reviews. If your friend or neighbor refers you to a provider, that's generally a great recommendation. And then third is working your referral base. So when another colleague or an internist recommends you to go to a specialist, most patients listen to that referral, but then they'll double up and check online reviews. So those are the second part of the method is really teaching providers how to grow their reach. And then last is optimizing their marketing strategies. And again, that's like the last part because I feel if providers can generate their own brand and then reach patients through referrals and online reviews and other providers, that carries 90% of your practice. And then you really don't need to do that much marketing per se.
Yeah. We'll talk about the ways that you clinicians attract more patients through your 8 marketing priorities. But one thing because for a solo practitioner or for a dentist or aesthetics, where like marketing and social media, those are critical. But if you have someone like working in the hospital, and what potential things should people be aware of in terms of conflict of interest? If the hospital says, oh, you can't have a social media presence, oh, you can't have a Twitter account, you're not supposed to be posting your ideas. What sort of problems and how do you solve for those potential conflicts?
In general, with the people I've worked with, a lot of hospital-based providers don't work too hard at doing social media and they don't really need to. And usually they're so busy that if there's a conflict of interest, I haven't run across that in my working with people because generally, if they're employed with a practice, then they don't need to really promote their brands on social media, but they do need to grow their patient base through referrals and through word of mouth. And that's a great way to do it. But I haven't personally run into that problem with the providers I've worked with. But you're correct in that people who are off on their own, they do use social media to market their practice, and rightfully so. And that's a great channel for them. But I could see how if you were on social media and you're hospital based or employee based, that could be a conflict at some level, depending on what you're saying.
Yeah. And the other follow-up question I have for you, because there's a lot of physician influencers, like for example, just to name a few, there's White Coat Investor or
Yeah.
Kevin MD, or even there's a lot of YouTube or TikTok, Instagram influencers with almost like a thousand millions of follow Daniel Sugai, these mega physician influencers. So when clients come to you and work with you, is this the sort of level of results they should be expecting, like a million followers on YouTube,
Oh,
TikTok, or
no.
Instagram?
In fact, no. I really don't work with that. Those are providers who really want to do a side gig on top of treating patients, which is super. And it really is a lucrative revenue stream for them. But no, really, where I focus on is helping general healthcare providers. Say you are a orthopedic surgeon or a chiropractor or dental provider or health or nurse practitioner who wants to open up their own practice. Those are the kind of people who I work with generally, and would be good candidates for this course because essentially they would learn a lot of the stuff they could do on their own and wouldn't have to hire it out. And a lot of the basics of what healthcare providers who seek more patients and are treating patients, this course would help them. But if you want to be an Instagram influencer, what those mega influencers, no, this isn't really this like what I consult with.
Yeah. Um, a follow-up question is, if people are listening to this, is this course a teach you how to do it, or is it a do it for you type of course? And I believe he also gets CME credits as well.
Right. Yes. Whoever takes the course is eligible for 8 CME credits, which, part of the reason I created the course is there's really not many courses providers can take that are healthcare related. So this is your foray into some business thought processes. And it is more or less teaching you what you can do on your own. And then if you want, if some of it becomes overwhelming, you can say, I want to do this, but I want to hire it out.
Mhm.
Then there's resources, and it's not me. And I'm there to help them find resources. But for instance, there's ways to automate your reviews, your online reviews. And there's some tools out there that make it really easy, and they can help you get great reviews and grow your practice quickly. And a lot of providers aren't aware of those tools. So those are some of the things that are covered in the course as well. But no, it's not, I'll do it for you, or a lot of it is teaching you there's a lot of things providers can do easily on their own, and they should do it.
Yeah. And what are some of the results of people that have taken the course? What are some of the results that you've seen?
Uh, One of the providers, for example, circling back to the provider who didn't have his online presence when he moved practices, and that's when I got involved, has since created his own online presence, and then actually used a lot of what he learned in the course and brought it back to his hospital. And then he also works in a private practice. So it's a unique situation. And he brought a lot of the tools that I introduced to him to those groups, and they since have exponentially grown their reviews, and in turn that grows their patient base. So they've been able to grow their practice quite efficiently, and they haven't really done anything else except for focused on their review system, which is one component of how you can grow your practice.
Yeah, interesting. Another follow-up question I have for you is, what I love for you is you talk about, to end it out, you talk about there's 8 marketing priorities that you use to help attract more patients. So and then how can people connect with you, follow you, and reach out to you?
Okay, I'm not sure exactly what the 8 are, but what I talk to people about is first and foremost, establish a robust online presence. And that's not social media. That's just a basic online presence.
Mhm.
And then I work with them to build strong referrals. So, what are some steps you can take to build your referral base within your community? And then a third is, how do you create a VIP patient experience? And I really think if you go out of your way to treat each and every patient like a VIP, that could very well be your strongest marketing channel right there. People love to tell their friends, "Oh, I saw so and he fixed my problem or she fixed my problem." And your patients are often your best marketing channel. So I offer a lot of strategies on how to grow your patient base and then keep them as a marketing base. And then how do you different? And the last I think I would talk about is differentiating yourself. It's, I'm sure all these different specialties, they're all everyone ends up sounding the same online. So I really encourage providers to put a little personality into themselves and telling them who they are to their health, to their patients, into the referral base. So they're memorable. And it's nice to have a personality and get to know your provider on a personal level. So I encourage people to do that online as well.
Yeah.
So those are some of the steps I talk about.
Yeah. And yeah, this was a really interesting conversation. I got a lot of value, and it's really interesting to see you talk about it and all the different ways physicians can grow their online brand. And lastly, how can
Really, it's
people?
just a future proof their
Mhm.
practice because the
Yeah.
one thing you learn, and I would think you would agree, is like people change jobs frequently. And what you think might be a perfect first job and you'll be there forever, the odds are you're probably going to change jobs at some point. Really, that is the lasting message of what I try to get people to understand is you just don't know where life will take you. So you might as well protect yourself in all your hard work.
Yeah. It's interesting because healthcare is that last frontier where everybody was like, yeah, doctor will never get affected. But now, even with these budget cuts and, all these, it's going to affect more and more physicians. Really fascinating conversation. And thanks so much. And keep up the great work.
Thank you. And I was going to say, if you want to learn more about me or the course, I'm at practicegrow.com. So thank you so much.
Thank you.